Now for the polymorphism. The keyword polymorphism means many forms, like we know in the introduction of the object-oriented programming. It comes from Greek. The word poly means many and morphos means form. For example, in chemistry, carbon exhibits polymorphism because it can be found in more than one form. The graphite and diamond, but each of the form has its own distinct properties, and of course the application. A subclass possesses all the attributes and operations of its superclass because a subclass inherits all attributes and operations from its superclass. This means that a subclass object can do whatever its superclass can do. As a result, we can substitute a subclass instance when a superclass instance is expected, and everything shall work fine. This is called substitutability, and it's part of polymorphism. We have an example that in the rectangle and triangle class we inherit the methods of the shape class, but we can provide an actual implementations for the get area in the rectangle and the triangle classes. That means a polymorphism. But how to draw a class diagram? The class diagrams go hand in hand with object-oriented design, so knowing its basics is a key part of being able to draw a good class diagram. When required to describe the static view of a system or its functionalities, you'll be required to draw a class diagram. Here are the steps you need to follow to create a class diagram. The first one is to identify the class names. The first step is to identify the primary objects of the system. The second step is the distinguish relationships. In this step you determine how each of the classes or objects are related to one another. And the third one is to create the structure. Once you add the class name and link them with the appropriate connectors, you can add attributes and functions or methods or operations as the last part. And we have some best practices of designing of the class diagram. The class diagram are the most important UML diagrams used for software application development, and there are many properties which should be considered while drawing a class diagram. They represent various aspects of a software application. Here are some of the most important points that you need to keep in mind while drawing a class diagram. The first one is the name given to the class diagram must be meaningful. That means that describe the real aspect of the system. The second one is the relationship between each element needs to be identified in advance. The third one is the responsibility for every class needs to be identified. The next one is for every class, minimum number of properties should be specified. And unwanted properties can easily make the diagram complicated. That is the reason, because you need the minimum number of properties. The next point, user nodes should be included whenever you need to define some aspects of the diagram. At the end of the drawing, it must be understandable for the software development team. And the last one, before creating the final version, the diagram needs to be drawn on plain paper. It should be reworked until it's ready for the final submission, or you can use one software, for example Visio or any other options in the market, because you can make many versions and you can have the final version, and you didn't need to redraw or rework again, like if you have or if you use a paper. And of course it's very easy to upgrade from version to version. Now, how we can create a class diagram? Creating an example of a class diagram, we have some requirements specification for the following example. The first one is a university consists of multiple faculties which are composed of various institutes. Each faculty and each institute have a name, and address is known for each institute. The second one, each faculty is led by a dean, who is an employee of the university. The next one, the total number of employees is known. Employees have a social security number, a name, and an email address. There is a distinction between research and administrative personnel. The research associates are assigned to at least one institute. The field of study of each research associate is known. Furthermore, research associates can be involved in projects for a certain number of hours, and the name, starting date, and end date of the projects are known. Some research associates teach courses. They are called lectures. And the last one, courses have a unique number or an ID, a name, and a weekly duration in hours. Then we have the requirements. We need to pass for the first step. We identify the classes. In the example, we must identify the elements that occur in the system university that identify the classes. We have an employee, a faculty, an administrative employee, a research associate, the institute, the course, lecture, and projects. The next step is to identify the attributes. We have defined meaningful data types for our attributes, even though these are not included in the specification. And we also set the visibility of all attributes. We have how in the slide how the diagram it's conform with the attributes or the part of the attributes. And the next step is to identify the relationship between classes. And in this part we following some relationships in the generalization or the inheritance. For example, the administrative employee and the research associate inherit the employee class, that is an abstract class, and the lecturer it's inherit from the research associate. Once you make all the association and aggregations, then you have a final class diagram, in this case for the information system of the university. This is not the only way you can represent the system. You can have different forms to represent the class diagram or the logical part of this class diagram, but this is one option you can consider for this example. And that's it. See you soon, guys, in the next video, and remember, probably UTR.